Hello and welcome back for part 3 with my chat with old school anarchists. My name is Chamshi Gimbap, the political fish. And old school, quickly, who you are and where you're from?
I am the old school anarchist. I'm from planet Earth.
Excellent. Good start. Yes. We do recommend you check out the other 2 parts. We covered Antifa and punching a Nazi. And what did we do in the first part again? Oh, yeah.
Just generally sort of like anarchism and stuff, wasn't it?
Anarchism for dummies, wasn't
it? Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So this time we're going to do some Q&A. I'm going to jump in with the questions. Like I said, some of them are a bit stupid.
That's all right, man. I like a bit of humor, a bit of
they're a bit quick fire as well. So first one.
Okay, well, let's go for it.
Okay, first one. Favorite color?
Blue.
Me too. There you go. That's interesting. Okay, favorite movie?
Star Wars in general.
Star Wars in general. Could you pick one?
Empire.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Favorite author or book?
I read a lot of books, man. I read a lot of books. I'm gonna just plug Conquest of Bread, man, because I think that's one. Peter Kropotkin, Conquest of Bread. Oh no, fuck that, mate. George Orwell all the way. 1984. Homage to Catalonia. Yeah.
I tell you what, I do love that book. I don't do a lot of fiction though.
Yeah. I quite, you see, I like fiction. I read a lot of sci-fi books and stuff, like dystopia, sci-fi stuff like that. Isaac Asimov, he's one of my favorite sci-fi writers of all time. Like, he's brilliant. But I do prefer, factual stuff. And I do recommend anybody who wants to check out anything to do with the history of like the Spanish Civil War and maybe with an insight onto anarchism, because anarchism played a big part in the Spanish Civil War. Homage to Catalonia by George Orwell. Amazing account of that.
I've heard about that. I'm still going through his catalogue at the moment. And the thing is, with my middle school students, I usually, once they get up to that stage, one of the first books I introduce them to is Animal Farm. So, I'm always rereading Animal Farm like over and over again. Oh, I still love that book even today.
Oh, yeah, it's great, yeah.
The spirit level. Okay, hang on. One thing, because talking about favorite books, the spirit level. The Spirit Level: Why More Equal Societies Almost Always Do Better by Richard D. Wilkinson and Kate Pickett is a brilliant book, and I recommend anybody check that out. I was thinking about these questions earlier, and I thought, well, what book has been the most thought-provoking for me? And that's probably got to be it. And it's about inequality, essentially.
Right, I'm having a look at that now, and I'm interested in reading that, actually,
Yeah, well worth it. What are you reading now?
I'm reading now is it's called a book called Sapiens: Why Societies Rise and Fall. Let me just check it out for 2 seconds. I'll just grab it from my bed because it's good to plug this one.
Here's some music.
So we've got Sapiens: A Brief History of Humankind by a guy called Yuval Noah Harari, and it's like a sociology, anthropology type book. It's quite thick. I'm only halfway through. I've been reading it for the past month, but it's really good.
Okay, excellent. Beatles, Elvis, or the Rolling Stones?
Oh, Rolling Stones.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Aliens or Predator?
Ooh, Predators. Yeah, Predator's badass, but like, I like the Alien films more. I like the character of Predator and the race of the Predators. They're interesting, but the films, Alien films, are better, just hands down. So, yeah. It's a hard one. Predator as a person. The Predator who fought fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger.
As a movie?
As a movie, Aliens, always.
Definitely. Favorite MP, worst MP?
Ball. Jeremy Corbyn. I like Jeremy Corbyn. Yeah, I mean, modern. I'm not best at British Parliament at all. I like Jeremy Corbyn, and I fucking hate the Tories. So yeah, fuck them.
Choose anyone. Worst MPs. Oh god, Dominic Raab. He really gets me. Chris Grayling. Oh god, they're really, they look like serial killers to me. Honestly,
like, you could make a case that they fucking are serial killers.
I mean, like in Duncan Smith, that's just a no-brainer. But yeah, those two, Chris Grayling and Dominic Raab. Okay, before we gonna open up to the floor, this is the most important question, right? And it can save your life. Okay, what is your chosen weapon in a zombie apocalypse?
Ooh, that's a good one. That is a good one. Yeah, I'm quite partial to melee weapons, and I think because you don't need ammo, and ammo would be scarce in a zombie apocalypse. And a crowbar also has many different uses for survival. So
someone who's played Half-Life far too much, obviously.
Yeah, man, I fucking love Half-Life. But yeah, I'd probably go for a crowbar just for pure practicality.
Interesting. Well, that's good because it has not just a killing zombies use. You can break into places, and you can wrench things open. Open your tin of soup and all sorts.
Exactly. Right. It's a tool more than a weapon. But...
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Right, now it's down to you guys that are watching. If you could ask us some questions, directly to Old School, or you can ask me one if you like. I'm going to go through some comments while we pick up a few questions. James Fielding says Chris Grayling is just a meme. Yeah, pretty much. He hasn't got a clue what he's doing. Favorite MP, Big Daddy Vince. Yeah, but he calls all Brexit voters racist. So, no thanks, mate. I like Clive Lewis, but that's because he's a hottie. Oh, God, Angels. I don't know what to say. Oh, yeah. Yes, I think he's got sense, but he's pro-nuclear weapons, and I can't agree with that, to be honest. What do you think of Clive Lewis?
Clive Lewis, I couldn't even tell you who he is, man, to be honest.
He's Shadow Defense Secretary, or he was. I'm not sure what he's doing now. I know he had a hoo-ha at the Labour thing.
Well, I think anybody who's in that kind of position, foreign policy wise, and is still allowing shit to go on, like selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, fucking wars and funding fucking all of this kind of shit, are just fucking war criminals, mate. So fuck all of them. Basically.
Another book that you guys might like, another one from Angels, is On Tyranny: Lessons from the 20th Century by Timothy Snyder. Easy to read, not too long. I'm sure I've come across that book. I haven't got around to reading it. Yeah, Dominic Raab makes my skin crawl too, actually. Yeah. They've got real vague-ass faces from Captain Swiss. Yeah, I think so. This was before Chris Grayling, just a meme. I scrolled up far too far. Here we go. Hammer and sickle, show those zombies how to be a commie.
Yeah, that's a good idea, man. Dual wielding the hammer and sickle.
Yeah, definitely. Fist in the air and a loud of hypocrisy, mate.
Yeah, boy. I've got my fist in the air, but you can't tell. Just.
Favorite MP from James Fielding, Kenneth Clark. I can't put a name for his face. His calming voice is what we need more of. Yeah, okay. Favorite MP, John McDonnell. Yeah, I kind of want John McDonnell to adopt me, and like I could be his nephew, and he'll just sit me down and say, there, Chamchi, don't worry about it. Would you like Uncle John to read you a story? Oh, yes, Uncle John Whitby. That'd be very, very nice. Can we read 1984 tonight? Yes, I think that's a good choice. Would you go and fetch it for me off the shelf? Oh, of course, Uncle John Whitby. Yeah, nice one. Thank you. But yeah, Here we go. We've got an actual serious thing here from Captain. Oh, here we go. Strap yourself in, mate.
Okay.
Thoughts on Antifa activists invading meetings of right-wing speakers? Not talking about fascia, but just people with views they don't like. I think this could be with regards to the Jacobs Rees-Mogg thing a few weeks ago. What do you think? You go first.
Yeah, I'll take that one up. Swiss, you little divisive bastard. We've spoken about this in person. I think the protest is part and parcel of democracy. Yeah? And when it comes to people like Jacobs Rees-Mogg, is a fucking vicious story at the end of the day. And I don't want to take away, like, you know, there is no way that I'm going to say, oh yeah, an MP, an elected member of parliament, should not be allowed to speak to the public. That's just bollocks. Do you know what I mean? Of course they're allowed to speak to the public, but part of parcel of democracy is the protest is allowed. And sometimes, you know, it's a difficult one because I wouldn't really want to rush in there and just kind of shut down a talk personally. And I'm not going to apologize for anybody that does, but disrupting it to make a point, why not? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to apologize for that shit. Optics, maybe we should think about it. Targets, maybe we should think about it. But fuck Jacobs Rees-Mogg, and protest is part of a democracy. That's what I say.
I would pretty much echo that. Did they have a right to march in on him while he was speaking? To be honest, I'm not really sure. I haven't seen enough of what he was saying on there for them to need to go in there. I mean, if he's talking about, you know, abortion's bad and, you know, all these other things, who knows?
And recently was Jacobs Rees-Mogg is one thing, yeah, because he has been associated with quite far right figures and he's had like been having dinners with him and that. Do you know what I mean? So I've tried, at least, especially with Captain Swiss, to make the case that, you know, people have, especially politicians, have a public face and a private opinions. And I think most people have that, but especially politicians who are in the limelight and have to pull a party line sort of thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if Rees-Mogg was a secret fash, to be honest. But then Antifa, London Antifa, did storm a talk with Sargon of Akkad, for example. And yeah. And, you know, he isn't explicitly a fascist, and he's actually debated with people like Richard Spencer on his channel and stuff like that. But Richard Spencer himself has said, oh yeah, YouTube channels like Sargon of Akkad and Lawrence Southern and Rebel Media are brilliant entry points to fascism.
Yeah.
And I don't trust Sargon's motives, or, you know, a lot of his content is quite borderline.
Now here's the thing with Sargon, is he's the sort of person that should fucking know better. He really should. He's he's not stupid, you know. So the fact he's doing this kind of thing really scares the shit out of me, actually. Yeah. You know, in the future, he's the sort of people that we need to be scared of. And again, I suppose Jacob Rees-Mogg, JRM, could be someone we should be very scared of, because he's a lovable toff, like outer rapping, but inside there's a woman hating fascist.
Exactly. And this is why it's a difficult question, because obviously you can't just advocate fucking shutting down speeches by, you know, just because you disagree with people. But if we can sit here and, you know, discuss the nuances and the ideological things at play, then yeah. And I think politics is boring, so like a bit of fun and a bit of protest and a bit of noise and a bit of pushing and shoving and that is it's fun. Do you know what I mean? It gets people talking, it gets people interested, it's active, it's exciting. So and I think, as much as I love Swiss, the centrist opinion is a bit soft sometimes. Like, do you know what I mean? It's a bit wet. It's just a bit like, come on, you know, have a bit of fucking balls about you. Not, that's bad terminology. Have a bit of bravado. You know, have a bit of fucking fun.
Yeah. Talking about soft and lukewarm centrists, Angels has a question. what are your views on voter apathy? We have most people disinterested in politics. Do you think that that is directly to do with the anti-democratic, outdated first past the post system?
I think that there's a lot of factors to that. First past the post is would, I think, make it more representative, and thus more people would like to get involved, definitely. But I think it comes down to a wider issue in general, that politics is looked upon, especially by the working class, as something that is completely so far removed from them that it breeds apathy. Do you know what I mean? They have, and the fact is, yeah, people go to fucking work, and it's you know, day in, day out. If you're a working class person, it's all about just going to work and getting your means to survival. Actively engaging in politics is completely secondary to that. And it's hard to actively engage in politics when you literally just you know, you hand to mouth basically, and you work in a shit job 9 to 5, and you get home, you just want to fucking have a beer and watch some shit TV. Do you know what I mean? I'm not surprised that this current situation with the disillusionment, separation between the political process and the people, and the separation between people's labor and the people, I'm not surprised it breeds apathy. It inherently it breeds apathy, and that's why I promote class conscious ideological politics, which would get normal people on the fucking, you know, involved. Everybody would be involved.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, whether you like politics or you're engaged with politics or not, politics engages with you. You know what I mean? And I think we need to sort of make people excited about politics again and passionate about politics again. And you only can do that by breaking the current fucking Overton window, talking about politics, which actually means something to people. And that would be, at least from my perspective, like socialism and anarchism and stuff, which is primarily concerned with the working classes and, you know, putting power into normal people's hands, taking it out of the echelons and the fucking la-di-da bullshit in fucking parliament. You know, politics happens all of the time in the streets, in people, you know, and we need a new understanding about what politics is to break apathy. And you know, it's going to take a lot more than just introducing first past the post, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, what I would say about voter apathy, I think what they touch on this on the spirit level is that if you keep people on the edge of absolute poverty, is that they do become very apathetic when it comes to you know, things like voting and becoming engaged. So I think that's one thing. I think the other thing is you need someone to vote for is another thing. If I think like all through my life, it's only now in, you know, 2017 that I'm actually given someone to vote for, just because of my my political position. You know, we had Margaret Thatcher. Not going to vote for her, and there was Labour was essentially a dead party during the 80s. During the 90s, again, there was no chance. And then Tony Blair, like, fuck, I'm going to vote for Tony Blair. And then like Ed Miliband after that, like there was nothing, like through the 2000s, there was nothing between Labour and the Tory party. There was just squabbling over the 3% in the middle. So,
and it was pure neoliberalism, like through and through for both parties. So it's not real. It's not a choice, is it? And you can see that in like the you know, especially in America, they've got so much more of a two-party system in a sense. You know what I mean? And they're not very different, the Democrats and the Republicans. You know what I mean? At all. Especially on sort of like economics. I think the current system just breeds apathy by design, really.
Okay, so yes, I don't think it's just the outdated first past the post system. I think it might help, but wasn't there a referendum on alternative voting systems in 2012? And basically nobody voted for AV, but maybe Captain Swiss can check me on that. So I don't know. I just don't think there's enough information on alternative voting systems, to be honest. Okay, Captain Swisson, I think, is in reference to the Jacob Rees-Mogg question he asked earlier. He said, I think above all gives the left a bad rap. Sorry, one more time. I think that above all gives the left a bad rap. Well, it will do in a right wing media.
Always going to have a bad rap.
Always. What we do. Yeah.
You know, if you're doing peaceful fucking, like we touched on it earlier, and shit like the community outreach and the counter propaganda and the info gathering that we do in terms of like anti-fascism, it just don't get a look in. You know what I mean? And if it does get a look in, it's from alternative media sites. Like big time news people are just not interested at all. Do you know what I mean? So it's only when things happen that are a bit, you know, outside of social convention that it even gets a fucking looking in the media. So, and then it's always spun. I would eat my hat if any right-wing publication supported a radical left-wing movement in any circumstances, never mind if they were being completely fucking peaceful or not. You know what I mean? It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And I'm more concerned with stopping fascists from organizing than I am with what the fucking Sun has to say about me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I completely agree. And while the right wing has a stranglehold on people's media that they do ingest, that's all we're going to see. That's all we're going to see, and it's going to get worse, I think, which is terrible,
unfortunate. Yeah.
I have an apology.
They always say, "Oh, go on." I was just going to say they always say things usually have to get worse before they get better. So let's go for it.
Yeah. Down. Angels, I'm sorry if I creeped you out, making John McD to be a right creeper. No, it's just your friendly uncle, John McD. You know, no, I didn't mean to creep you out. Sorry, Angel.
The overly friendly uncle.
Old school. Oh, sorry. There's one question before that. Does Antifa believe in freedom of speech? James, I think we touched on this earlier, but if you want to recap old school.
Yeah, we do. In fact, we agree with more freedom of speech for everybody in every facet of society. Because, like I said, I'm an anarchist, and we want people to be free to express, free to love, free to fucking do everything. We just don't believe I don't want to. For example, the freedom of speech is it's enshrined within law, so that the state cannot persecute you for thought crimes or speech. You know, that's enshrined in law, and I do not want to take that away from anybody whatsoever. What I'm saying is that there are always consequences to certain types of speech. Like there is a difference between, there's a difference between what you say and the very act and the effects of saying it. Do you know what I mean? And a good example that gets brought up on brilliant YouTube channel, which I will plug, is Philosophy Tube. And I didn't know about Philosophy Tube for a long time, and he's quite a respected YouTuber. But he's done an hour-long video on the philosophy behind Antifa. And one of the examples he uses is the words, "I love you." Yeah. And, you know, that's usually quite a nice thing to tell somebody that you love them. And, but if somebody, for example, was like stalking somebody and saying, you know, "I love you," and even if it's true and he has complete rights to say that, you know, the more if you send in messages to a girl and you're like, "Oh, I love you," and like kind of stalking them, there is effects there. Do you know what I mean? That's you're exercising just your right to speech, but it's harassment. You know, taken to, you know, what I'm trying to allude to. So, and one of the examples that Captain Swiss uses is like yelling fire or a bomb on a plane. There are going to be direct consequences to that, and I believe that there should be direct consequences for advocating fascism, not just for having different ideas, not just for, you know, because I disagree with you, but if you're advocating shit like fascism, that is a declaration of violent intent, in my opinion, and there should be consequences to that. Yeah, speak all you want, but prepared to get fucking punched in the face afterwards.
Okay, so I think Jack James has got a good question again. This one's directed at you, old school. And I think this is, he's talking about age of provocateurs in this one. Old school, have you ever seen instances of people joining Antifa with the motive of giving groups a bad look?
Well, not personally. It becomes hard because in recent years, the black bloc tactic gets employed quite often. And you purposely go to hide sort of like your identity and to be a solid squad, a solidarity squad, and it's like the invisible force and all this kind of stuff. You could talk about black bloc as its whole other topic, but it's easy to get infiltrators, and unfortunately that means that the tactic of what we call as anarchists affinity groups need to be created and employed, and this means that it's only people that you trust, you make friends, and you have groups of trusted individuals. And in the past, the police and the state actors have infiltrated groups, far left groups, to gather information and to potentially arrest people. And it's called what is it now? Basically, they'll plant somebody in, and it's COINTELPRO. COINTELPRO was a big example in America. It does happen, and it's it is a risk, and it is something that we take into consideration, and that's why we promote trust between close-knit groups of people. And you should only really be doing activism within your own affinity groups, people that you trust. But it is a big problem, yeah. I don't think it happens as much as people make it out to do, though, to be honest.
Excuse me 1 moment.
No worries, mate.
Sorry, there was some wanker in the chat.
Is it?
So yeah. His name's Hans. So I didn't notice because I wasn't that far down the thing. His first one was, oh god, Hans help, support Trump bros. He's our president. I was like, oh, fuck off, Hans. But yeah, Angels and Captain Swiss are now mods. Angels can. Oh right, okay. Let me just find out where I was. Oh fuck me. Oh yeah, there we go. It's all catching up now. God, how far was I up? Oh yeah, okay. Smoke a grenade? What are they talking about? I wish I had a spanner right now. Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah. We can put the whole free splate into practice here. Okay. For love of God, give me a spanner. Yeah, okay. Where has socialism worked? There's a really good video that Matt Parkman put out, and he talks about where socialism, as far as it has been tried, talks about socialism. So I would point you towards that. It's quite an easy watch. I think it's Matt Parkman, but there's a really good video, and it's called "Has Socialism Ever Worked?" Or "Where Has Socialism Ever Worked?" And it does talk about things like that.
Yeah, I can throw a few sort of examples out there. We mentioned it before, sort of during the Spanish Civil War, revolutionary Spain, places like Catalonia and Barcelona were successfully in a what you would term socialism. I think the question is quite a broad one, because it depends on your definition of socialism, because the NHS is socialist and the NHS works quite well.
Well, not at the moment. It's fucking
well,
broken,
no,
but,
yeah. But the concept of it is, that's a socialist thing in its and I don't like to point to the USSR very much because of the connotations behind that. But if you look at it in the terms of pure economics, they took a peasant country and turned it into a global superpower in the space of a good few numbers of years. Yeah, there were some horrible atrocities committed, and I don't agree with that whatsoever. But the economics behind it are sound, and the morals, because I like to use the term when it comes to socialism, it's worker control of the means of production in the interest of public good, and that really hasn't had the chance to rise or fall on its own merits.
Yeah, that's right.
Every time this kind of thing has been tried and implemented, it has been fucked up by fash or state actors, external actors. Yeah.
External market forces, I like to call them. You know, but most of the time they are forces of capitalism, not of the intrinsic social socialist roots behind the economy in the first place. So yeah, go on, carry on. Sorry, mate. Sorry to interrupt you.
It's all right, man. It's all right. One brilliant modern example that's still going today is the EZLN. So that's the Zapatistas in Mexico. Yeah, they had an armed uprising in the 90s against the Mexican government in the Chiapas, and they had a bit of an uprising because the Mexican government was like funded by, they opened up, you know, the transatlantic trade partnership and all that in the 90s, and they had a big uprising, took a town, but then was pushed back out of the town into the mountains by the Mexican and US forces, backed by the US forces. But they've been living there since the 90s in the mountains with their own little towns and their own little villages, completely self-sufficient and fucking loving it, mate. Check them out. The Zapatistas, EZLN. Yeah.
Angels, something directed at me when we were talking about her question earlier. She's corrected me and said that was a vote on AV, alternative voting, but not a form of proportional representation. I agree. I think there's more nuance there, but we could talk about that on another day. I think Captain Switzerland, my correction earlier hadn't been on MOG specifically, but your answer had kind of covered most of the same stuff anyway. Let's still talk about hands. Fucking arsehole. I've got a good one for you, old school. From Angels. So you could say that anarchy is extreme libertarianism.
In a way, if you look in terms of political ideology, the term libertarianism was kind of a left thing before it got co-opted by the right. And sometimes when I'm talking to people about politics, I like to introduce my politics as libertarian socialism. Because the idea behind liberty is kind of like freedom, and you know, essentially it's about like the freedom of the individual. But libertarian socialism kind of melds the idea of, because one of my main sort of philosophical outlooks, if you will, is that you can't really have a society without individuals, and you can't have individuals without a society. They are there's a word for it, but they are symbiotic in a way.
Yeah.
And so libertarian socialism, it looks at both of them things and talks about, well, to empower an individual, you need to have a strong community, and to have a strong community, you need empowered individuals. So yeah, I suppose, yeah, it kind of is. But it needs in the modern discourse, an extreme libertarian would be kind of like an ANCAP. You know what I mean?
That's the problem. I think the ANCAPs in the USA have kind of hijacked the term libertarianism. So they've kind of, you know, it comes, when I hear the term libertarian, I hear fucking ANCAP, basically.
Yeah, don't tread on me.
Yeah. Let me exploit and let me you know, rape this world for as much as I can, or as much as I have the ability to, is what I hear, you know. And
it's like, sorry, mate, go on.
No, go on. I was going to give you a case study. There's a really good book called Shock Capitalism, and I can't remember a fucking name now. And they look at Milton Friedman's kind of exercise that they had in how it's going on in New Orleans now, right? And how it kind of went on for about a year or so in Iraq after the US pulled out, and they are really not good stories, you know. I'm gonna have to find out who wrote that now, because Shock Doctrine is called.
The Shock Doctrine. Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm adding these to my reading list, man. These books that we've been mentioning, like these are cool books.
Okay, yeah. Okay, The Shock Doctrine, The Rise of Disaster Capitalism is a 2007 book by a Canadian author and social activist Naomi Klein. I knew that, Naomi Klein. And there's
I think I've heard that name.
Yeah, she was interviewed by Owen Jones on his YouTube channel. Yeah, it's a brilliant book, and it's really, really scary, and it really looks at, you know, the libertarian or anarchic capitalist side of how, you know, if you keep these ideas, even though they're outside of the Overton window generally, if you keep them on the table for long enough, once you get a place that's been struck by such a massive disaster, then they're like, okay, well, what are we going to do here? Then they're like, oh, well, look, these are the only policies and the only ideas we've got left. Let's try these, you know? And it's really good. It's scary. And in a follow-up book, she still says that, you know, these shock doctrine ideas are still going on in places like New Orleans, you know?
I'll check that out, man.
Yeah, it's really good. Angels Naomi Klein, my mother loves that author. Yeah, as soon as I read that book, I then did her entire catalogue, and it, you know, all of them were brilliant, really well written. And I like the way she goes into geopolitics as well. I've seen Captain Swiss. I've seen a film documentary adapted from The Shock Doctrine. Another one my dad recommended. Do recommend. Yeah, again, brilliant. Any more questions from the floor, or Anarchist, do you have any questions?
Not particularly, mate. No, I mean, I think we've come to quite a good understanding, and, you know, it seems like we've got quite similar views. I suppose I'd pose to you, how do you think would be the best way to get what we're talking about? You know, how do you think we should go about doing this kind of thing? How do you think it should, you know?
In what respect? Can you narrow that question down just a little bit, mate?
Yeah, because I mean, you're doing YouTube, we're doing YouTube and that, because some of the biggest mantras, at least for me, is that we need is like 3 rules, like educate, organize, and agitate, and that's how we really push for a revolution at the end of the day. What do you think personally? Do you think would maybe what do you think you would like to do or like to see in terms of political development outside of Parliament? Outside of Parliament,
yeah, I think education is one thing, and as I'm a teacher, I mean, I'm always kind of trying to get as much information as I can, and my brain works so fast, it remembers stuff, then it forgets stuff, and then by the time I go to write it down or try to say something about it, I've forgotten a few key details, and I try and catch myself up. So I while things are fresh in my mind, is good that, so this is why this kind of cast really helps me. Actually help. I think we've got a few good points, and I think we covered our asses with our evidence as well. So so far. I just had a question from Angels. Would you class yourself as a socialist? Yeah, at least a socialist. I'm what would be called an evolutionary socialist, but I think when I talk to people like old school anarchists, I think there is a mutual goal there, and to live in a protopian society, you know, and I think that maybe our route to get there is slightly different, but I think we have the same end goal in mind, you know, to have everything, you know, to have power, food, and all these things essential to people's lives, localized, you know. There's no real, once we get further down the road, there's no real need for centralized government if you've got a localized strong local community. Exactly. And I suppose that's where my Marxist and communist roots come in. So yeah, the reason why I would call myself an evolutionary socialist is I believe to get there, the first steps we need to take is actually get the right people in government. So this is, I mean, when I look at people like Jeremy Corbyn, John McDonnell, Laura Pidcock, and Louise Long Bailey, you know, even Clive Lewis sometimes, you know, because he's got a lot of common sense behind what a lot of what he says. You know, when I look at these politicians, there's a lot of hope, I feel, if we can push through things like Leveson 2 and, you know, really, you know, loosen this awful grip that the right wing has on the UK. I mean, Angels, you'll probably agree with me. It's not until you're outside the country that you realize how right wing the country really is as far as the media is concerned. So, yeah, as far as my political position is concerned, that's essentially what I would say it is.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I'm definitely a socialist, and I think that is just philosophically. I don't think that you know, the idea of wealth and the idea of money and how wealth is created in society, but also, you know, if you talk about wealth just not as currency, but as, you know, technology and inventions and stuff like that, that is the wealth of nation. You know, like the collective human wealth is stuff that we've invented and all of this stuff, and that is only produced by the collaboration and over years and years and years and years and years, generations and generations of workers and inventors and nurses and people working together, and in the interests of liberty and freedom and all this good anarchist tasty stuff. It only makes sense that we apply a socialist economic system. You know what I mean? Because then that collective wealth should be shared and owned and operated by everybody at large. Do you know what I mean? Because it's produced by them, and you, at no point can you ever take one individual and say, you know, exactly what they contributed alone, because there's so many factors involved. Do you know what I mean? In how people are raised and what kind of inventions they're using, and especially the nature of capitalist wage system. Anyway, you know what I mean? The only reason why people can profit in a capitalist system is because they are paying the workers less than their labor is actually worth. You know what I mean? That's the only reason why there is profit. Otherwise, if you were paying the workers exactly what they were producing, there would be no profit. So you can cut all that shit out. You can cut out all that middleman and the idea of money and profit, because you know, it's just it's bollocks, man. And but in terms of political ideology, there are several schools of thought within anarchism, and, you know, anarcho-communism is something that I quite prescribe to personally. But I like there's another school of thought called synthesis anarchism, which approaches it from a perspective of, well, there is no reason why certain schools of thought can't coexist, and without going too deep into it, because, you know, you've got individualist anarchists, and you've got like feminist anarchists, and you might even have, you know, some kind of market anarchists, not necessarily ANCAPs, but people who still want some kind of market in a sense. And synthesis anarchism is the approach that there is no reason that those different schools of thought cannot coexist with each other, even though I personally prefer like a socialist or a collectivist sort of view. Yeah, so synthesis anarchism, Google it.
Okay, cool. I want to wrap up this stream very, very shortly. We've been on for 45 minutes. But what I will say is I will probably do another stream straight after this, just for bullshit. And this is open to anybody on the floor that wants to join us. So Captain Swiss, Angels, and then maybe you can talk about the final points. Old School, are you happy to join us?
Yeah, mate. If you just want to do a bit of a random collect a few people in here,
yeah. So
I'll probably smoke a spliff in the meantime, and then I'll be a bit more. You know what I mean?
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. So if you want to join us on the stream, do you want to just type a yes in the chat now? And I'd say so 2 extra people. So Captain Swiss, Angels, you're my first choice. Mike, yeah, okay, Angels. What about you, Captain Swiss? Do you want to join us?
Come on, Swiss.
Come on, Swiss. Yes. Okay. Cool. Right, Swiss. I've got your details on the Book of Faces, so I'll sort that out. If you could then forward it on to Angels, that'd be wicked. Okay, sweet. Again, thank you for watching. Thank you for the awesome questions coming from the chat, and yeah, like, subscribe, all that groovy stuff, and share, obviously, because it's all about education, really, at the end of the day. Thank you very much. Sign off, please, Old School.
Yeah, thank you very much, folks. It's been great, and thanks for having me on, Cham. It's I've really enjoyed it, to be honest. So yeah, signing off.
Yeah, fist in the air and a land of propulsion, mate. Yeah,
yeah, boy.
All right, man. Nice one. Bye bye. Nice one. Take care, peeps.